Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thanks very much for taking the time to visit. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. I'm going to be putting out a lot of content about sports news from across the world, including rugby. And in this video I'm going to be talking about the Rugby Championships, and we've had 2 weeks of competition now in the Rugby Championship, and I just want to do a bit of a review on where things are as we stand today. Now, if you're not sure about who plays in the Rugby Championship, it's an annual event that takes place between the Southern Hemisphere rugby teams, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia and Argentina. And as I said, we're week 2 into the competition, and what a fascinating couple of games we had over the weekend. First of all, the redemption game in South Africa for the All Blacks, and they got up and won a very tight battle against the Springboks. Perhaps deserved winners, many would say, and a lot of the South African friends of mine who are commenting on my channel found it pretty hard to accept that defeat, I think, but a lot of others did, because they realised that the All Blacks played a really good game. 35-23 was the score in that match, and a little bit flattering, I think, for the All Blacks in the end, getting away in the last few minutes with some bonus points. In the other game, huge surprise with Argentina shocking Australia. But if you actually watch the match, it was a fantastic game by the Argentinian team. In these rugby battles at this level, it's those teams that take their chances that tend to come out on top, and the Argentinians did that through some Australian unforced errors, and the Argentinian players were there to capitalise, scoring 7 tries in total. A fantastic effort against the Australians, winning by 46 points to 17 over there in Argentina. And that win has actually put Argentina at the top of the Rugby Championship table. We're going to have a look at that a little bit later on in this video. So 2 great results over the weekend for Argentina and New Zealand. And now we have a week break in the competition as the teams will travel. Argentina is off to New Zealand and South Africa are travelling to Australia. Now the venues for those 2 up and coming matches on August the 27th and 28th are Christchurch in New Zealand, so the home of the Crusaders. The All Blacks are going there. They're going to get a very strong welcome, I'm sure, by the Crusaders fans. But this Argentinian team is not to be taken lightly, and I think Argentina is going to take it to the All Blacks in New Zealand. And we've seen what Ireland have been able to do to the All Blacks, so I'm sure Argentina are going to get some inspiration from what happened there. Michael Check has really got this Argentinian team going forward now, and they're playing some really, really good rugby. When they get on a roll, they're a very, very tough team to beat. They've got an outstanding pack of forwards, and they've got some talent in the backs as well, and we saw the pace of their backs in the weekend against Australia. South Africa's travelling to Australia for their next game, to Adelaide in fact, so that's an interesting location for this match to be played. Adelaide is typically a very strong place for Australian rules football and also for soccer. So the Australian Rugby Union obviously trying to take the sport of rugby union to new states across Australia and try and get a better following, which is a good idea. So it's going to be interesting to see how many turn up to watch Australia play South Africa. I'm sure it's going to be a packed house there at the Adelaide Oval. It's a fantastic, a magnificent sporting ground, and with it full to capacity, watching the Springboks play Australia, I'm sure it's going to be a great, great game. I'm going to do a preview video a little bit closer to those games to talk about what I think after we see the naming of the teams and everything. But yeah, that's going to be really, really interesting. Just going back to week 1, if you haven't caught up with the scores from that, South Africa bet New Zealand in South Africa, 26 points to 10. That was a very dominating display by the Springboks and deserved winners there in the first test. But that's what really inspired this turnaround from the All Blacks, I think, getting a thrashing by South Africa, something they haven't had to those margins in a long, long time. In the first match, Argentina-Australia, Australia won that game by 41 points to 26 in Argentina. And I think a lot of people thought that Australia were going to go on and dominate that series against Argentina. But the second game that was played over the weekend, as I said, Argentina came out on top, Los Pumas, and they played exceptionally well. So Australia's got a bit of work to do, and Dave Rennie and the boys are going to go back and I'm sure do a lot of soul searching over what happened in Argentina in that second game. A lot of unforced errors, a lot of discipline issues, things they're going to need to tidy up and the question's got to be asked, I guess, without Michael Hooper there, is this Australian team a different outfit because they haven't got that leadership? I think Michael Hooper is an outstanding rugby player and human being, and he's surely being missed from this Australian team. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when they take on South Africa back in Australia. So let's have a look at the standings now of the Rugby Championship as it stands after 2 weeks of competition. We have Argentina at top, followed by Australia, South Africa and New Zealand. So these teams are going to go into battle for the third week of this competition with a lot on the line, and there's going to be perhaps some strong changes in that table after week three. I'm interested to know what you think. Who do you think is going to come out on top between Australia and the Springboks in Australia? And what do you think is going to happen in New Zealand? Are the All Blacks going to be able to continue their return to form and dominance, or are the Pumas going to cause another upset on New Zealand soil when it comes to rugby union? All exciting stuff to happen the weekend of August 27th, and I'll be covering all those games here on the Sports Startup Guys channel. So be sure to subscribe and like the videos, and I'll be back with more soon. Have a great day, everyone.